The monster study was a stuttering experiment performed on 22 orphan children in Davenport, Iowa in 1939. It was conducted by Wendell Johnson at the University of Iowa. Graduate student Mary Tudor conducted the experiment under Johnson's supervision. Half of the children received positive speech therapy, praising the fluency of their speech, and the other half, negative speech therapy, belittling the children for speech imperfections. Many of the normal-speaking orphan children who received negative therapy in the experiment suffered negative psychological effects and some retained speech problems for the rest of their lives. The research began with selection of 22 subjects from a veterans' orphanage in Iowa. None were told the intent of her research, and they believed that they were to receive speech therapy. Tudor was trying to induce stuttering in healthy children and to see whether telling stutterers that their speech was fine would produce a change. Included among the 22 subjects were 10 orphans whom teachers and matrons had marked as stutterers before the study began. Tudor and 5 other graduate students who agreed to serve as judges listened to each of the children speak, graded them on a scale from 1, poor, to 5, fluent, and concurred with the school's assessment. 5 were assigned to Group E, the experimental set, and would be told that their speech was fine. The 5 in Group IB, the control group, would be told that their speech is as bad as people say. The remaining 12 children were chosen at random from the population of normally fluent orphans. 6 of these were assigned to II. These children, ranging in age from 5 to 15, were to be told that their speech was not normal at all, that they were beginning to stutter and that they must correct this immediately. The final 6 children in Group IB, similar in age to those in II, were normal speakers who were to be treated as such and given compliments on their nice enunciation. On the first visit, Tudor tested each child's IQ and identified whether they were left-handed or right-handed. A popular theory at the time held that stuttering was caused by a cerebral imbalance. If, for example, a person was born left-handed but was using their right hand, their nerve impulses would misfire, affecting their speech. Johnson did not believe the theory, but still suggested Tudor test each child's handedness. She had them draw on chalkboards and squeeze the bulb of the dynamometer. Most were right-handed, but left-handed children were present in all the groups. There was no correlation between handedness and speech in this subject crop. During this period, they assigned numbers to the children, such as Case No. 15 Experimental Group II. The experimental period lasted from January until late May 1939, and the actual intervention consisted of Tudor driving to Davenport from Iowa City every few weeks and talking with each child for about 45 minutes. She followed an agreed-upon script. In her dissertation, she reported that she talked to the stuttering youngsters who were going to be told that they did not stutter. She said to them, in part, "You'll outgrow the stuttering, and you will be able to speak even much better than you are speaking now. Pay no attention to what others say about your speaking ability, for undoubtedly they do not realize that this is only a phase." To the non-stuttering youngsters in II who were to be branded stutterers, she said, "The staff has come to the conclusion that you have a great deal of trouble with your speech. You have many of the symptoms of a child who is beginning to stutter. You must try to stop yourself immediately. Use your willpower. Do anything to keep from stuttering. Don't ever speak unless you can do it right. You see how, the name of a child in the institution who stuttered severely, stutters, don't you? Well, he undoubtedly started this very same way." The children in II responded immediately. After her second session with 5-year-old Norma Jean Pugh, Tudor wrote, "It was very difficult to get her to speak, although she spoke very freely the month before." Another in the group, 9-year-old Betty Romp, practically refuses to talk, a researcher wrote in his final evaluation. Held hand or arm over eyes most of the time. Hazel Potter, 15, the oldest in her group, became much more conscious of herself, and she talked less, Tudor noted. Potter also began to interject and to snap her fingers in frustration. She was asked why she said so much. "Because I'm afraid I can't say the next word." "Why did you snap your fingers?" because I was afraid I was going to say A. All the children's schoolwork fell off. One of the boys began refusing to recite in class. The other, 11-year-old Clarence Pfeiffer, started anxiously correcting himself. He stopped and told me he was going to have trouble on words before he said them, tutor reported. She asked him how he knew. He said that the sound wouldn't come out. Feels like it's stuck in there. The sixth orphan, Mary Korlask, a 12-year-old, grew withdrawn and fractious. During their sessions, tutor asked whether her best friend knew about her stuttering. Korlask muttered, "No." "Why not?" Korlask shuffled her feet. "I hardly ever talked to her." 2 years later, she ran away from the orphanage and eventually ended up at the Rougher Industrial School for Girls, simultaneously escaping her human experimentation. Mary Tudor herself wasn't untouched. 3 times after her experiment had officially ended, she returned to the orphanage to voluntarily provide follow-up care. She told the IIA children that they didn't stutter after all. The impact, however well-meaning, was questionable. She wrote to Johnson about the orphans in a slightly defensive letter dated April 22, 1940, "I believe that in time they will recover, but we certainly made a definite impression on them."